Hi everyone and welcome back to another video with me Shruti. You're watching Living Our Ascension. So first of all, Merry Christmas to everyone who's watching this. I'm actually filming this on Christmas Eve, and it also happens to be my Venus return, which Venus is the planet of love and relationships. And I didn't realize this actually right before I started this video, is when I realized that how all of this is coming together. That today is my Venus return, and I remembered that yesterday, and I was thinking about it, but I didn't put it together that I'm filming this video today, and the video is about relationships, but it all just happens to line up as it always does. But yeah, I want to wish everyone watching this a really happy holiday season, and I'm sure that you're enjoying with your loved ones and meeting, if you're going back for Christmas and if you celebrate and stuff like that, then you're probably meeting, your family, friends and other people, because not everybody even lives, in the same state. And it's just the time when lots of people come together, even in other cultures, people who don't celebrate Christmas. There can be other festivals that happen around this time in the winter, and anyway, New Year's is very widely celebrated, and it's just this time of this communal coming together is what I'm trying to say. And so I think that's why also this video is quite perfect for this time, because you'll be running into like a lot of people. So basically what I want to share in this video is the kind of relationships that we run into on our journey of ascension, once we start on the path of enlightenment, and once we activate the ascension timeline, especially when that happens inside our DNA, not just something that we want and desire, and we keep saying that yes, I'm ascending, but it's actually not, the frequency hasn't yet activated. That's not what I'm speaking about. I'm speaking about when the frequency actually activates you, when you have allowed it to. So there's different kinds of relationships that we run into, which might look quite different from the more regular sort of interactions that we've had before. So in this video I'm attempting to just put them into a few categories, and especially the reason why is that so that we can identify, because relationships are always mirroring to us something, and I'll speak about what for the different relationships, but it becomes easier to identify what that is and what they were sort of showing us, by going through these categories. But at the end of it, I do also want to say that, a relationship is a relationship. Whatever kind of relationship you run into is there for a reason. So at the end of it, we have to also stop putting everything into categories too much, if that is what we are super focused on. But categories are helpful in the sense of identifying certain things. So with that said, I'd like to begin. So the very first thing that I want to speak about very briefly is karmic relationships. So I've divided this video into karmic relationships and dharmic relationships. And the karmic relationships I'm just going to mention briefly. They're not the main focus of this video. And the dharmic ones, which have to do with our divine will, and which have to do with once we activate the vibration of purity, then we start attracting those type of relationships, more like soul family, relationships. That's what I'll be focusing on more. So if you are interested in watching, then please keep watching this video. And also I'd like to say that I have some very big sales going on right now on my website. I have like a 30% off on my higher guidance services. You can find the link to that below this video. And also I've started, I'm really happy to announce that I've started this new service called Ascended Mastery Training, and it's this really high vibrational training that's there. So if some of you, who've done the inner child, the shadow work process with me, the inner child program, it was like, it's a program where you where I work with the person with and the focus is healing, like it's healing all of those things that we're not identifying within ourselves. Whereas this program now, Ascended Mastery Training, is at a whole different level. It works with the light aspect, whereas inner child healing worked at the shadow aspect as the main focus. This one focuses, Ascended Mastery Training focuses on the light aspect, and it helps us to come into, you'll work with me on a one-to-one level. It's like personal coaching and training. activate like your galactic codes. And yeah, you can read, you know, more about it on the link below this video. That's also a 30% off, because I have, you know, this sale going on for Christmas and New Year. So and because this video is on relationships, if you're interested, you know, I have also astrology based readings that I do, which is the soulmate you have certain soulmate codes in your astrology, which is not only shown in the birth chart, but there's other charts in astrology as well that show certain codes that we come into, and bringing that awareness shows us what our own patterns are, and what, you know, the soulmate vibration looks like in our life. So that's one reading that I have. Then the other one is the compatibility reading, in which you know, you take 2 charts. Again, that's very, very in-depth. In India, it's used for like marriage. You know, when people before they get married, they give their information to astrologers and get to see how compatible they are and stuff. So I do it at a very, very deep level. You know, it's very comprehensive, lots of different things coming together into just one reading, because I want to put together a holistic view. You're not ordering different readings, it's like one holistic view of everything combined. So check them out as well. I'll put all the links below this video. And now I would like to begin with the kind of relationships that you would attract on the Ascension path. So I'm going to speak about karmic relationships first. And karmic relationships are, you know, you might have an idea of what karma is. You might have heard it because it's like quite a popular word now. But basically what karma means is that you know, human souls incarnated on this planet and have been carrying, you know, they've had many different lives on this planet, and there's a certain patterns that they've picked up, you know, and certain traumas, as well as, you know, positive experiences that they experience, that they carry within as remembrance. And each time, you know, until this idea of something being positive and negative does not does not become nullified, because, you know, everything in creation just is. There's nothing that's actually positive and negative. Everything is neutral. So until we are still carrying within ourselves, you know, this idea that something happens and it's either positive or negative to us, we will keep coming back. Even when you die, you know, in this physical body, you lose it for this lifetime. You'll come back in the next lifetime and have to keep you know, then you will start afresh, but it'll be the same sort of challenging situations or lessons and the positive things that you have known so far. So we kind of we pick up where we stopped, you know, in like the previous lifetime. And karmic relationships have to do with that. So before we hit the ascension vibration, because the ascension vibration in itself is, you know, when we have started to transcend duality, when we hit the 4th vibration, for the higher 4th vibrational level, because it's close to the 5th vibrational level. You know, the 5th vibrational level is the level of the higher heart, and when the higher heart activates, it's when, you know, we actually move into the vibration of divine love, which is beyond anything positive or negative, where we know that things just are, everything is love. And people who have activated a higher 4th dimensional vibration, you know, they've activated a certain level of purity in their bodies, and so you know, they then will attract more of these soulmate type relationships start to happen in their life. But before that level, you know, before that level hits us, most of the relationships that we go through will be more karmic in nature, which means that, you know, it's not that you won't have reflections. You will have reflections of your light and the shadow. Shadow simply just means things that you are not aware of within you. It doesn't mean that there's anything negative, but it's just, you know, things that you weren't aware of that are hidden, that either you are hiding from yourself, for some reason you've labeled it as negative and you're not willing to see it, or talents as well. But karmic relationships have a tendency to amplify more of the duality that we carry. what we consider as positive and negative, they will kind of just magnify that, because something is within us, and if we don't go inside of us ourselves enough, then relationships really help to magnify it. And even when we do, relationships are just an experience of what's going on inside, basically. So at the karmic level, below the fourth dimensional level, at the third dimensional and lower fourth level, relationships reflect our duality for the most part, and they'll be showing us those areas that we can grow. And often they can have a vibration of codependence in one way or another, whether we realize it then or not. And yeah, so basically I don't want to go too much into karmic relationships. If you have more questions about this, you haven't heard this before, you can leave your questions below this video. I'll try and address them when I can. But they basically, they can have like this past life focus. So like people, for example, people who get married or who have like these great loves, everybody has like one or two great loves in their life, these really strong connections. And often these can be people that you've known in a previous life. They looked something else, like maybe today they are your lover, but in your past life, they were your sister or something like that, or your co-worker, but someone that you had like a lot of connection with. So you kind of come back into this new life in a different role, but kind of playing out the same patterns, and they're showing you the same thing. So that's why when we see people, we can feel sometimes like, oh my god, I have a past life connection with them, or I've known them before, and people even say things like this, and it's like a feeling of familiarity, like it's something that you know already. And so karmic relationships do have an aspect of that, but like I said, the main focus is duality is reflecting what you see as positive and negative in life. They'll be reflecting that to you. Whereas once we hit the fifth dimensional vibration and just below that, we start attracting more dharmic relationships as well. And dharma, karma means, like I explained, it's the positive and negative and an amplification of that. Whereas dharma means once we have unified that, and once we walk the path of love, because we realize there's no positive and negative, there's only love, there's only neutrality. And beyond that then comes the level of service as well. When we realize we are love, we know that all we can do is be love, and everything is love, so we just show up as love everywhere, and that's the highest service that we can do. So dharma is, that's what dharma means. It's kind of, dharma is related to divine will. It means the path that is willed for us. So it's like the path of truth, the path of service. That's what dharma means. So dharmic relationships have that element where they magnify purpose, whereas our karmic relationships were magnifying duality and what we see as positive and negative. Dharmic relationships magnify our purpose, our spiritual purpose, our purpose for incarnation in this life, our purpose of service in this life. And there's different kinds of dharmic relationships also that can happen. So like I said, I'm just giving you a few categories, that I've created or observed in my life. And this is not like an exhaustive list or anything like that. It's just meant to help you to recognize some of the different kinds and what they mean for you. So what happens is that typically when we hit a certain vibration, when we're trying to when the higher heart is getting activated, it may not have fully become activated, but even when we are peaking, once it's activating, what that means is that we're going there, then coming back, going there, then coming back. So we'll have these peaks, and these experiences that have to do with divine love. So you can still attract, these relationships at the higher fourth dimensional level. And often when we are at that level, what we experience most of all is secondary family connections. So if you know how we are created, I just want to give you a brief overview so as to explain this. It'll help you to understand better what I'm going to say later. Is that we are birthed from source. So if this is source is all that is, and we're birthed from source through mother. then we come out through our I am presence. That's the first time that we become an individual spark, you can say. It's our individualized God self. It's at the 11th dimensional level. This is the I am presence. And before that, of course, when you just exist in source, you're kind of, you're part of source. So you're like almost like a part of all that is. You haven't become individualized yet until you are birthed. That's when we become an individual creation of life. So what happens is that we move through those high levels, and then we kind of percolate down to the 7th dimensional level, which is the soul level. It's the level of the soul and twin soul. And so when you can say that when we are first born, it's like there's a spark, of creation, and you come out, and almost like immediately you come out into the 7th dimensional level from those higher, 12th dimensional levels. You come down straight to that almost, but there's a way that we follow. And so in between the 7th and the higher levels, there's all of these different levels between that. And what happens is, so for example, the 8th dimensional level, which is right above the soul level, is the higher self level. And so the higher self is like, this is the higher self, and then here is your soul, and here is your twin soul. It forms like a triangle, a trinity, and then if you go above that, the 9th dimensional level, it's like the head over soul. So 8th dimension is the higher self, which we also call the over soul, like almost like the soul of the soul. And then there's the soul of the higher self, or the over soul, which is the head over soul. So you see, then at that level, it becomes more, you're connected to more beings as part of your family. And then there's another level above that, and you're kind of connected to more beings within that family. So there's different levels of our family in that sense. And what happens is that when we first hit in our human body, when we first hit, start hitting the 5th dimensional vibration, we typically will meet people from our secondary soul family first. So they're kind of like not super close to our soul in the sense of, like for example, our twin soul. Many people talk about the twin flame. And of course, it's a principle of creation. It doesn't mean it has to be a human being who's walking by and you're finally going to find them. That's not how it works. It's a vibration. When you come into that vibration, you will attract everybody that you will attract, will ignite that vibration in you. You'll be living that vibration. It's not another human being outside of you. But anyway, I was saying that, when we hit that 5th dimensional vibration, we come into we start attracting secondary soul family connections and other people who we have that connection with. So there will be an immediate recognition, but it won't be that primary recognition of exactly what your soul is, because it's like the twin soul mirrors exactly what you are. It's like, they kind of contain your opposite. So it's like staring into a mirror exactly. Is what the twin soul represents. And so then these connections that are primary soul family again will reflect that, and then the secondary soul family will be more removed, but also reflecting some parts of you. So we'll typically attract more secondary soul family members, when we first begin our ascension. And these can be, how you recognize this is that these connections will bring out, aspects of yourself that relate to your life purpose. So for example, you might go through, when you meet this person, there'll be a sense of purpose that's ignited at first. You'll feel like, the things that you require for your mission, for your life purpose, they kind of reflect that somehow, or they're kind of coming together with you to co-create it. So it's co-creation is what it's all about. And when we are, first beginning our journey of ascension, often the people that we attract at the secondary soul family member level can even be guides, or people who we view as a guide, because often they know something more than us. related to spirituality or related to coming into our soul. And we, but there's an equal exchange, however, that goes on in these relationships, because people who hold still a more physical frequency will be able to support in more physical ways somehow, or emotional ways. There'll be a sense of bonding, but there'll be this exchange that happens. But always the people who have like a higher light level will be able to give more at the light level. So and both aspects are important. It's not like one is better than the other, but there'll be this exchange that happens. So so it can come in the form of like teachers and other people who are doing things that we want to activate in our life, or it can also be through personal relationships too, like a partner, like a romantic relationship. But there'll always be this immense attraction that's there, and a sense of that they are bringing you support somehow. So even for me, for example, I've activated a certain level of light within me, but I'll still meet, secondary soul family connections, and they'll, even through romantic relationships, and they'll bring something that's important for my life purpose, that's the support that I need. For example, if I feel like, oh, I'm doing this alone and I need some sort of co-creation, and it doesn't always come when you want, but it'll be something that you really needed, and oftentimes you didn't even realize, but they'll show up with that, with their own abilities, and mirroring certain things to you as well. But the thing is that these relationships can be very helpful to trigger, to come into our primary soul as well, because they'll be showing you certain aspects of your soul path, and what your soul is all about, and how to activate those higher levels. But at the same time, often through the friction that you have with these relationships as well, because even in dharmic relationships you will still have friction. It's the same, relationships are the same at all levels. It's just that they bring about different things. Like I said, dharmic ones bring out life purpose more, than these more karmic patterns that we might still carry. But any of these triggers that happen, they will be showing you how you are different from them, in a sense that so through all of these interactions with relationships, your frequency becomes more and more specific. You come closer and closer into what is my unique, exact, specific frequency, and you're kind of refining that through all of the people that you meet. And so they bring you support and everything, but there will also be things that you see where it's not exactly your frequency. So they'll help you bring an awareness into that as well, because before perhaps you interacted with them, you didn't even know what that how you are different. You never really gave it much thought. There was no need for it, how you are different from another, or it ignites something within you, and then you want to search deeper. So that's the purpose of these relationships. And often these relationships can, all kinds of relationships can just end. There can be a lot of attraction at first, and then it just gets removed from your life through one way or another. And that just shows that the soul contract has completed. Whatever exchange needed to happen between the two of you for remembrance and for the assistance of life purpose, that has ended. And that's why, at a physical level, often I've seen that, we can blame ourselves, like if a relationship didn't work out, or something didn't happen the way that we thought. But at a higher level, everything has just to do with the soul contracts. And when we realize that, it becomes a life of surrender. It becomes much easier. And that is another reason I wanted to make this video too, is that I've seen that especially people on the path of ascension, because we are so much into inner work, we can often blame ourselves and have this idea that we need to be perfect, or why did this happen, why did this not work out, what's wrong with me. You're looking for reasons for something to be wrong with you. So and the path of purification is not about finding faults within the self and just constantly telling yourself that I have to keep working harder. If there's this inner critic within you, especially someone, it feels like like a disciplinarian or something, that's a little much, then that is not really love. So we have to remind ourselves always that things are not always about us. Sometimes things are much bigger than that as well. So you are a part of it, you are part of something greater, and sometimes these higher level interactions need to happen, and they can cause things within us, sometimes disappointments, and we need to go through that, of course. But what I want to say is that when they are not karmic relationships, especially, then you won't hold on as much. So for example, of course, you'll get disappointed the same way, if a relationship ends, like lots of people usually do, but it won't have such an effect on you that you're holding on to then. Like, let's say if the person betrayed you in some way, or something didn't work out, or you thought of something and then it turned out a different way, you won't carry that almost baggage into the next relationships. That's what we are doing at a karmic level when we are still attracting more karmic relationships. But these relationships, even if they end or something happens, something blows out of proportion, you will go through that period, of course, where you are sad or you're releasing, but it'll be short-lived, because you've activated a certain frequency within yourself, so you'll be able to see what's needed, much quicker. And also, you won't be holding on to like regrets and self-blame and stuff, all of that drama that happens at the karmic level, because you no longer have a need for drama. And I've seen this in my own life as well, that I attracted certain relationships of this kind, and they showed me some very core lessons, some very painful ones as well, that felt quite like exposing, that very core thing within me that I needed to see. But then that's it, like they blow out of proportion and they show you, and then maybe within a few days or a week or whatever, a month, however long it takes, but you won't be holding on as much, it won't be this struggle. So dharmic relationships are just about that, like they show you something, and if you are already activated to a certain level, you see it for real, and I'm not talking about, because lots of people do this thing where they won't fully penetrate the pain that they're feeling. It's just like, oh, feeling it a little bit, yeah, suppress it, move on, and then they pretend like they're fine. And that's not what I'm speaking about. I'm speaking about fully going in, because you have become accustomed to fully going in, to whatever feels painful, and then realizing that the pain isn't yours, pain doesn't exist. When you allow yourself to go through that process, oh, I'm feeling this pain, enter the pain, and then realize that what is the purpose of this? Oh, it's love. Actually, all is just love. So when you are able to truly, in truth, do that, that's when it's actually a dharmic or soul family relationship. But anyway, now I want to move on to the next one, and the second one is primary soul connection, so primary family relationships. And you will also run into these once you start activating the fifth dimensional vibration. And primary primary family relationships have to do with the higher self level. So as I explained before, the higher self is the 8th dimensional level. It's right above the soul, or the 7th dimensional level. And the higher self carries, these twin soul pairs. So if you imagine this is the higher self, and there's all of these branches that are going out, and they carry like these 6 pairs. So there are these 12 souls, and 6 pairs, because each pair is a twin flame pair. So it's like, if you imagine 6 branches coming out of it, so all of those souls are your primary family. So you can imagine how rare that is, because souls will not only incarnate on earth. Creation is huge, but because earth is being accelerated at this time, we are going through the ascension process. And especially for volunteer souls, those of us who have come here to assist, the main purpose is assistance. We do have, we might have some primary soul family members that we run into as well, even if it's just 1 or 2 that we meet in our lifetime. But these ones feel very similar to secondary soul family. But there's more of this sense of almost like it's you. When you meet them, you'll feel like it's you somehow. So it's like almost like looking at yourself. They look a little bit different, but in the beginning, especially when you haven't identified what you are exactly at that very core level of the soul, they'll seem like it's me, like this is what my soul is, like they are my soul. That's how it feels. But once we are, and when we are able to see something that core, that familiar, that inherent to what we are, often, you know, at first we can cling, and we want to cling on to them, and it's like, you know, I don't want to let go, because it's almost like I found God. But really, God, you know, is just you. And when that realization hits that whatever they are showing you are actually parts of you that you already contain within, then we can have that more neutral relationship with them. So typically, you know, we'll meet them and there'll be this love and this awesome exchange of love, all of these soul codes about what our soul truly is, what kind of a soul we were born as, you know, because all of us were born as a different kind of soul. There's so many different kinds of souls within creation, not just a human soul. Even if, you know, whatever it is, like, even if, let's say, it's a human soul, but your human soul will have a core kind of a frequency. There will be like a certain ray that you are working with, a certain quality. So they will be showing you what that quality is, and you'll be able to identify it, you know, at a very home level. It feels like home. So when we are able to then become more neutral and detached from the fact that, you know, it's not about holding on to the external, to that human being outside of us and really desiring them. Rather, it's about just observing and knowing that those qualities exist in us, and just with an open heart allowing them to expand and come through in our life. So they will often be igniting, you know, primary soul family will be igniting these creative abilities that you have, the soul qualities that you have, the gifts that you have at a soul level, and how you are here to serve. And again, they can be about, you know, co-creation if you happen to meet them or interact with them somehow. And so yeah, that is what primary soul family connections are all about. They'll be igniting soul codes. Whereas secondary soul family, the main focus is also igniting soul codes, but it's more about support, you know, the main focus. And all of these will bleed into each other. So a secondary as well as a primary soul family connection will be about igniting soul codes, about, you know, about support, about showing you your karmic things that you still carry, but each one of them has a main focus, and so that's what I'm telling you, what the main focus is. So for primary soul family, this is, you know, the remembrance and ignition of soul codes of your what kind of a soul you were born as, what kind of gifts you have, and the activation of that. Then the very last one, the third one that I want to speak about, is these other soul family connections that have to do with a higher levels. So sometimes, you know, because we are multidimensional beings, and it's not just that you know your soul now and that's enough, although that in itself is a very high level of vibration, you know, that humans are activating. But after that also there will be these lineages that you serve. You know, for example, you know, I was born as a certain soul within creation, and there's these different lineages that I'm connected to. You know, now that I've had a certain level of remembrance, I know what that is. Like, it's Lyran lineage, as well as, you know, Pleiadian. But certain souls will be bringing you, you know, will have a similar lineage. So they, through their gifts, like when they express themselves, you know, through words or through creative forms, or when you just see them, you will remember those codes as well, you know, the lineage that you serve. So these relationships will be bringing you codes about your galactic and your planetary service levels. So planetary, you know, everybody understands what galactic is, but planetary service doesn't just mean on this planet. You know, we have other planets in the solar system, and sometimes those of us who have a lineage from there will have certain gifts of that star system. And so these relationships will be reflecting that, because that human, you know, carries it so strongly, they've activated it, and when they shine it out, like, we feel something within us, you know, also developing, also coming out, like this remembrance. So so these are the three kind of relationships that are there. And I've observed that you know, some of these relationships, of course, you know, like any relationship in life, will be more short-lived. So there'll be a quick exchange of codes, you know, and, you know, it might just be several days, it might just be several months, but it can feel, it always feels intense especially these soul family connections, the dharmic relationships will feel intense because you're remembering your soul at one level or another, whether that's planetary level, whether that's your primary soul family level, secondary level, or the galactic and the planetary service that you serve, levels that you serve. But in one way or another, you're remembering different parts of yourself, so it'll always feel very intimate and very intense, or can be intense as well. But some of them, despite being that, despite you meeting them and feeling like, oh my god, I found this, and it's going to last forever or something, but it doesn't always, because especially at this time on earth, there's a lot of changes that are going on in our light levels. Everything is activating, so things need to happen fast, like a busy workplace, for example. You'll be meeting one person, then you're networking with another person, and there's lots that needs to happen. So at a higher level, that's what's happening, and that's the reason for this. So also, if you are very involved in your self-mastery process, don't blame yourself for being a failure or something, for relationships coming and going. Again, like I said, everything is not about taking the fault of it and trying to purify it. Sometimes we attract relationships in our life just because they're meant to activate a certain mission that we have for the next few months, that we wouldn't have as easily seen ourselves. Or sometimes they come, like I explained, for support, for physical support. Sometimes, I even get clients, for example. The first time that I meet a soul family member will be like a client. So in that sense, they're paying me money. So they're physically supporting me, even, as directly as that. It's not always about money, but I'm saying that it can even be something as directly physical as that they're supporting you in that way, because, you are working with your light levels. You've taken a certain leap of faith and you're serving in that way. For example, Ascension, the idea of Ascension is not so popular, so it's not as supported by the masses. But then these beings are the ones who need it. When we first come into our Ascension, we're looking for answers. So they'll gravitate towards purity when they see you, sharing it. But in the beginning, it can be more support in this way, and then there can be emotional support. There can be all kinds of. But ultimately, it's all about co-creation. It's about the vibration of co-creation, where it's not codependence anymore, but you are creating from love. But even that, like I said, when its purpose has ended, you will part ways also. Now, whatever kind of dharmic or soul family relationship you attract in your life, some of them, for example, let's take the example of romantic ones. What happens is sometimes you meet someone, or you'll find someone, and they have those soul codes, and you recognize it, but that union is not possible at a physical level. Like sometimes it'll be a person, like let's say if you're straight and it's a person of the opposite sex, or whatever, whatever your sexual preference is, but somehow they will not be available to you romantically. There might be an exchange that happens otherwise, but it won't become like a physical romantic thing. And the reason for that, sometimes, or they will be in your life in another capacity. And again, because if sometimes because what happens is that sometimes when we meet someone, we can focus too much on them and just that co-creation with them, and forget about our service that lies somewhere else in the moment. So for that reason, sometimes that can be blocked, that we're not almost allowed to have like a relationship with certain people, because it's not in our highest interest. It's actually not what brings us most fulfillment. But in that moment, we just really felt it, because they were triggering our own soul within us. Something was rising. And actually, through astrology, you can actually tell, certain people how they kind of mesh, what their compatibility is, and how they are co-creating together. And my soulmate readings, the compatibility readings are about this as well. You can see it in astrology as well. And some relationships, for example, have this blocked aspect. Like I've observed this in my life. Certain soul codes it didn't allow for the people to be in the same place at the same time, or there was, when one person's available the other isn't, and there's almost like this block that happens, you know. And it's nothing negative, like, you know, I'm not someone who likes the idea of saying that, you know, you are denied something. That's not how it is. But it's just, you know, as you go through life, certain things work out, certain things don't. It's as simple as that. And that's only because the things that come to us are what is for our highest good, and the others, only in the moment, you know, we felt it, but it wasn't meant to be in the way that we thought. And so, for example, I want to give you a personal example. So I've had relationships in my life where, you know, I met someone and I was like, wow, you know, they're bringing me all of these codes, and it felt really close, and it felt like, you know, there was a lot of attraction. But again, like I said, it wasn't allowed somehow for the meeting to happen, or the, you know, like somehow it felt like it was blocked romantically in a sense. And Spirit showed me later, you know, the fact that these people are here for like a longer purpose in your life. So sometimes what happens is, like, when we make things romantic, like, it can get quite intense, and then if the purpose wears out, then, you know, you part ways, and maybe you never see each other again, or you stay away. But other relationships have a way of you know, staying longer in your life, because you didn't, you know, the reason for them in your life was not to come together to get that intense for a short period of time, but to stay, you know, but there's this support and this co-creation that needs to happen over a longer sustained period. And over time, that's exactly how I felt about them, you know, things changed. And so yeah, I hope that, you know, I'm giving you some personal examples just in the hope that this helps you to see what kind of dharmic relationships we attract in our life. And as an example, some secondary family relationships that I had in my life, what happened was that, you know, when they ended, for example, you know, first of all, when they began, they really helped boost you know, my life purpose, like especially my coming into my spiritual self, whatever level I was at, you know, at different levels, because, you know, I met a few, and they really helped to accelerate that and to recognize what it is and bring in new energy in there. And then once they ended also, you know, they showed me, like, I remember that each time before they ended, it felt stagnant, like I didn't know where I was going with this co-creation. And I wanted to direct my energy there, you know, in that relationship, because it felt very close. But then it suddenly ended, and suddenly, you know, right after, sometimes even the next day, it became very clear what that my life purpose was in another direction, you know, for the coming months. And so they really brought that, you know, again. So dharmic relationships have a way of doing that as well. You know, whatever it looks like at a physical level, people coming and going, or you know, any kind of so-called drama that goes on with it. But at a higher level, that was the reason, you know, the triggering of purpose. So they come in at the right time and they leave at the right time when, you know, the contract is over. And so what happens is that, you know, when things end, especially with people, we tend to blame ourselves or them. But I just wanted to share a few words on this, you know, so that we are relieved of this. And I'll give you a personal example. So for example, a relationship in my life ended recently. And as always, you know, when relationships end, you after that, you contemplate what they were about, what they were bringing you, and basically what they were showing you. And what I want to say is that, you know, there's always different vibrational levels of people. Like when we come together, people will be, you know, at different vibratory levels, of course. And sometimes, you know, if we are more actively on the path of ascension, we can hold like a higher vibrational state, and we can experience a certain level of union with another, and, you know, if they haven't activated themselves to that degree yet. But at some point, then there will be friction, you know, if there's a difference in the light levels. And again, this is not like one person is bad or good. It's just what it is. It's just different light levels. That's it. But what happens is that even then, you know, you will be able to experience your own experience. So for example, you know, people who are on the path can feel like, I'm the only one I know who holds this level of light. I'm never going to meet someone who has this level of light, so of course it's not going to last, or, you know, there's going to be some or the other drama. But this is not always true, because your own experience is your own. So two people can be in a relationship, experience, have the same situations occur, but their experiences of it and the choices that they make can be quite different. So that is always up to you. And so for example, I observed in my relationships when this happened, when there were different light levels, whether it was romantic, friendships, whatever it was, I had, of course, certain things to see and learn from them as well. But because of the difference in the light levels, the main thing was that if there was something hidden within them that they weren't fully acknowledging, like if they were suppressing something, while I was with them, that wasn't part of the experience. So it was only, towards the end, when things were about to come to a close, when the contract was getting over, so to speak, they were revealed. And of course, like if something's hidden, or someone's not being, let's say, fully honest, or they're suppressing something, or they're not fully allowing themselves to be themselves, whatever it looks like, basically all of these things mean that they haven't fully come into love yet, and to divine love, the vibration of divine love. And when that's the case, your own experience with them can still be love, whatever you served for that duration. And then once it ends, of course, it can feel disappointing that the other person is not able to match you at your light level or whatever. But there will also be this sense of that it's over, that the contract is over. So they'll somehow it'll be like a sense of an ending. But what I want to say is that if you've activated a certain level in your ascension, it won't be painful like karmic relationships are. There won't be as much drama. So of course, you might have a few days or whatever of contemplating and seeing, but because you serve something higher and you have done a lot of inner work within yourself, you'll be able to see quicker the reason for this. And that is what enlightenment is all about, to just see something for what it is, for the truth of it. So when we see it at a higher level, because truth is always the highest level, the core level, of course it looks like this on the surface, but what is the deeper truth? What is the deeper truth, and what is the core? So when you are, even if there's lots of drama, and you go through it yourself too, but you'll be able to reach the core quite quickly, and see it. So that's what makes the path easier. And you'll just see everything then, as service, that this person came into my life so that I could serve better, right now, what I needed. They brought me that support, or they brought me those codes, and it was exactly what I needed. So you won't be then blaming yourself, and through this endless process of what could I have done better, what went wrong. I mean, of course, there's some introspection that we need to do. We need to see things as they are if we had certain things to see. But not overdo it, there doesn't always need to be a blame either here or on the other person. It's not about blame. It's at a higher level, especially with dharmic relationships. Everything is just about soul contracts, then coming together and then, expiring, because your service then needs to be somewhere else. So I hope that, I really want to bring home that message, because I've seen that we do this. But yeah, when we live at a certain level of surrender, like even no matter what kind of relationships we attract or any kind of life situations, like it's just it becomes quite easy in that sense, because it's a life of grace. You're able to see things as they are and move on quickly, and you're able to see that even if, let's say, other people create drama in your life, as an example, whoever it might be, you won't get tangled up in that. You'll be able to see it's not my stuff. I don't need this experience, so I don't choose it. That this is something that they need to deal with, they need to see, and even if you're in it, you can kind of see things, see the truth as it is, without this whole drama of blame, self-blame and blaming them. You just see everyone as trying, including yourself. So yeah, that's it from me. I don't want to make this video super long. I really hope that you have a great holiday season, and join me again for the next video. I have the 2019 prediction video coming up as well, the second part of it. So check that out in the coming week, hopefully, and I'll see you very soon in the next one.